You know, I was talking to a young fellow the other day, said he'd put everything into what his buddy called safe investments. Tech stocks, growth companies, said they'd been going up for 3 years straight. Then 2022 happened, lost 42%. Now he's 53 years old and he's starting over. Here's what nobody told him, and what Wall Street really doesn't want you to know. Most people think they know what recession-proof means. They'll tell you gold, bonds, maybe cash under the mattress if they watched their grandparents live through the Depression. But here's what most people don't realize. In the 2008 crash, gold fell 13% in the first 6 months. Those safe bond funds, some dropped 20, even 30%. And cash? Well, cash did exactly what it always does. It sat there losing value to inflation. Now, I looked at every major recession since 1970, and I found something that frustrated me at first, then fascinated me, because the investments that actually held up, they weren't the ones people talk about at cocktail parties. Let me show you something. During the 2000 dot-com crash, the S&P 500 fell 49% peak to trough. 49%. But there was a group of companies, boring companies, the kind nobody wanted to talk about, that actually made money. Companies that sold toothpaste, electricity, toilet paper. Procter & Gamble was up 18% during that crash. Johnson & Johnson, up 23%. Now you might be thinking, well, sure, but those are small returns compared to tech stocks in good times. And you'd be right to think that. But here's where the math gets really interesting. Let's say you had $100,000 in the year 2000. You put it in the NASDAQ, all those exciting internet companies everyone was talking about. By 2002, you had $51,000 left. You lost 49%. Now, to get back to $100,000, you don't need a 49% gain. You need a 96% gain. Because you're starting from a smaller base. That same $100,000 in a boring consumer staples portfolio, you had $118,000 by 2002. And here's the kicker. When the market recovered, you were compounding from $118,000, not $51,000 by 2007, before the next crash hit. The tech investor who'd recovered had maybe $140,000. The boring investor, $287,000, same starting amount, twice the money, just from avoiding the drawdown. Charlie Munger used to say, and he was right. The first rule of compounding is to never interrupt it unnecessarily. But see, this isn't really about math. That's what most financial advisors get wrong. They show you charts and standard deviations and sharp ratios. Nobody makes decisions based on sharp ratios. Here's the real story. In March of 2009, I got a letter from a school teacher in Ohio. She'd been investing in an S&P 500 index fund for 17 years, never missed a month, had about $340,000 saved up. The market had fallen 57%. Her account was down to $197,000. And she was 59 years old. She wrote me asking if she should sell everything and wait for things to calm down. Now, this is where psychology destroys wealth. Because in that moment, when you're watching your life savings get cut in half, every instinct you have is screaming, make it stop. The pain of losing money is about twice as powerful as the pleasure of gaining it. That's not just folk wisdom. That's actual research from Daniel Kahneman, won the Nobel Prize for it. So this teacher, she's feeling twice the pain watching that $143,000 disappear as she would feel pleasure watching it appear. I wrote back and told her a story about my own mistake. In 1987, I had a chance to buy more Coca-Cola stock right after the crash. I waited, thought it might go lower. Cost me probably $300 million in today's dollars. The best investment you can make in a recession is in your own discipline. So let me tell you what actually held up, backed by real numbers from Standard & Poor's and Morningstar data. During the 2008 crash, worst since the Depression, consumer staples fell 11%. The overall market? Down 37%. Companies like Walmart, Costco, Procter & Gamble, people still needed diapers and toothpaste and groceries. In fact, during hard times, people shop at Walmart more, not less. Here's a concrete example. $50,000 invested in a consumer staples ETF in October 2007 was worth $44,500 at the bottom in March 2009. That same amount in the S&P 500 worth $31,500. By 2012, the staples investor had $68,000, the S&P investor had $63,000. And that's only if they held on through all that pain, boring as watching paint dry. But in 2008, utility stocks fell only 19%, while the market dropped 37%. Why? Because people don't stop using electricity when times get tough. They might cancel Netflix and stop going to restaurants, but they keep the lights on. Duke Energy raised their dividend during the 2008 crash. Raised it. Southern Company too. This is where it gets really interesting. Healthcare stocks fell 23% in 2008. Still painful, but compare that to financials, which fell 55%. Or real estate, down 68%. People still get sick in recessions, still need their medications. Johnson & Johnson didn't lose a single quarter of sales during 2008-2009. Now, here's what surprises people. Long-term treasury bonds went up 21% during 2008, 21%, while everything else was burning down. That's because when people panic, they run to safety. And in America, that means treasury bonds. $30,000 in long-term treasuries at the start of 2008 became $36,300 by the end. You slept well at night and you made money. But, and this is important, this only works for treasury bonds. Corporate bonds, municipal bonds, even investment-grade bonds. Those fell too. Lehman Brothers had investment-grade bonds, right up until they disappeared. Now you might be thinking, Warren, if I just hold boring stocks and bonds, I'll never get rich. Let me tell you about Grace Groner. Worked as a secretary for Abbott Laboratories her whole life. Never made much money. When she died in 2010 at age 100, she left $7 million to charity. How? She bought 3 shares of Abbott in 1935 for $180 and never sold. Just reinvested the dividends. 3 shares. Boring pharmaceutical company. $7 million. The strategy is simpler than people think. Keep 30 to 40% in defensive stocks, consumer staples, utilities, healthcare. Keep 20 to 30% in treasury bonds or high-quality bond funds. Keep the rest in regular index funds. Have 6 months of expenses in actual cash. When the crash comes, do absolutely nothing with your defensive positions. If you have extra cash, and only if you have extra cash, buy more of the good companies when they're on sale. Rebalance once a year maximum. Not every time you get scared. After the crash, guess what? You do the same thing. See? The real secret isn't finding magic investments. It's building a portfolio you won't panic out of when things get ugly. Because they will get ugly. They always do. Now, I can hear what you're thinking. But Warren, what about timing the market? What if I sell before the crash and buy back in? At the bottom. I've been doing this for 70 years, never successfully timed the market once, don't know anybody who has except liars. In October 2007, I thought the market looked expensive. It was. But I didn't sell. Know why? Because I also thought it looked expensive in 2005 and 2006. If I'd sold then, I'd have missed 2 years of gains trying to avoid 1 year of losses. The market timing game is like trying to catch a falling knife. Occasionally, you'll see someone do it. But usually, you just end up bleeding. Here's what I want you to understand. Building wealth isn't about being smart or lucky or connected. It's about being reasonable when everyone else is being crazy. That school teacher from Ohio I mentioned? She didn't sell, held on through the pain. By 2015, her account was worth $520,000. By 2020, right before she retired, she had $687,000. She retired comfortably because she understood something most people don't. The best investment strategy is the one you can actually stick with when everything's falling apart. So take 30 minutes this week. Look at your portfolio. Ask yourself honestly, if this dropped 40% tomorrow, would I panic and sell? Or could I hold on? If the answer is panic and sell, you're in the wrong investments. Not because they're bad investments, but because they're bad investments for you. And that's really all there is to it. Build a portfolio you can sleep with. Then spend your time on things that actually matter. That's the secret Wall Street doesn't want you to know, because there's no commission in it for them. If this changed how you think about investing, hit that subscribe button and leave a comment telling me what's the one investment you're most worried about in the next recession. I read every comment,